Why did her commanding officer look so calm when everything felt wrong? The desert wind reeked of diesel fuel and gunpowder. Dust caught in her lashes as Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez adjusted the scope of her Barrett M2. The crosshairs trembled. Slightly, not from fear, but from the pressure she wasn't supposed to feel. Below, 3 trucks crawled through the canyon. Armored, escorted, loaded with firepower. She whispered into her Overwatch to command. I've got eyes on the target. Something's not right, sir. These weapons. They're ours. Static crackled in her ear. Then Hayes' voice, sharp, controlled. Negative, Vasquez. Intel confirms they're stolen. Take the shot. But Elena didn't move. Her finger hovered over the trigger as the lead guard stepped into full view, and that's when her blood turned to ice. The man's face, unmistakable. Sergeant Martinez, someone she'd shared a meal with just days ago at base. Command. I'm seeing friendlies, requesting clarification on take the shot. Hayes' voice exploded through the channel. That's a direct order. Elena pulled back from the scope, pulse pounding in her neck. In 3 years as a sniper, she'd never hesitated. But something about this mission, it reeked of lies. She activated her helmet cam, started recording, zoomed in. Martinez wasn't just there. He was directing troops, unloading crates. Military crates, not insurgent marked, not stolen. Official documentation passed between hands. Another man stepped from an unmarked vehicle, Colonel Hayes, her own commanding officer, laughing with Martinez, inspecting crates, paying him. It wasn't an interception. It was a delivery. Jesus Christ, she breathed. Her trigger finger dropped away entirely. She kept recording. Hayes, smiling. Martinez, counting. Crates stacked with care. Not panic, then crackle. Vasquez report. Have you neutralized the target? She made her choice. Negative, sir. I need to abort. Civilians in the area. No clear shot. Silence. Then venom. I can see your position. You have a perfect line of sight. Take the goddamn shot. The blow landed not in her ears, but her gut. He could see her? That meant he was down there. He knew what she saw, and now she knew too much. Elena broke down her rifle fast, hands moving before thoughts could catch up. This wasn't just about a bad order. She was compromised. She switched to an encrypted channel. This is Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez, Delta 6. I'm uploading visual evidence of weapons trafficking involving Colonel James Hayes. She hit send. The transmission cut. Her comm unit fizzled dead. Remote shutdown. Hayes' voice returned. Soft now, measured. I know what you think you saw, but if you're smart, you'll forget it. But she was already moving. Down the cliff. Hard and fast. Her training kicked in. No time for second guesses. She hit the ground running. Radio still dead. Hard hammering as orders went out. All units. Vasquez has gone rogue. Mission compromised. Engage on sight. Her own name. Branded as a traitor, Rodriguez. Chun, Williams, the names echoed in her earpiece. Her old squad. Acknowledging the order, they were coming for her. Not to ask questions, to kill. She stripped her gear. Kept the sidearm. One energy bar. Survival kit. Ducked into the canyon's jagged arms. Behind her, rotors chopped the air. Not a vac pursuit. She's got evidence. Hayes barked through the airwaves. Make it look like insurgents took her out. The hunt had begun. Elena flattened against stone, sweat freezing in the desert's dusk. Above, the chopper's spotlight swept in brutal rhythm. 12 seconds of dark, 3 seconds of light. Just enough to move, not enough to live. She waited, then moved. Her squad's voices haunted the airwaves. Grid 77. Negative. Sector 8. Moving in. Rodriguez. No longer the laughing, coffee-hating teammates, just a voice. Cold and professional. 18 hours passed, no food, 2 sips of water. The adrenaline ran dry, but she kept moving. Because if she stopped, she was dead. Because if she didn't, the truth died with her, and because Hayes had taught her everything she needed to know. He'd just forgotten who he taught it to. From her perch on a ridgeline, she watched 3 Humvees roll in. They swept the cliffs, converging on where she'd once stood. Too late. Elena's tongue crackled again, a public alert. Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez, armed, extremely dangerous, $150,000 bounty. Proof of death earns bonus. She froze. $150,000. That meant it wasn't just military now. That meant mercs, hunters, locals, anyone with a weapon and a reason and reasons. They were cheap out here. She studied her map. She moved. She heard it. A faint whistle, mortar round, instinct screamed before thought could. She threw herself behind a boulder as the explosion shredded the slope. Then Chun's voice. Calm, efficient. Target. Acquired. Adjusting fire. She ran before the second round hit. The canyon lit up, smoke, fire, rocks in the air, and at the ridge's crest, 3 figures. Civvies, armed, bounty hunters. Eyes gleamed when they saw her. 50 grand boys. One of them laughed. Raising his weapon, Elena didn't hesitate. She rolled left. 1 shot. Chest down. Second man flanked. Predictable. She caught him mid-sprint, 2-round center mass. The third one froze, young, terrified. I've got kids, he stammered. Hands raised. Please ... Don't shoot. She kept her weapon trained. How many? I don't know. A dozen teams? Maybe more. Word spreading fast. She zip-tied his wrists, took his radio, flicked through channels, confirmed what she feared. The bounty wasn't. A rumor Hayes had spread it wide. Contractors, criminals, everyone. But as she listened, another layer unfolded. They were treating it like a manhunt. Assuming she was scared, desperate, on the run. They didn't know who they were chasing. She smiled, not out of joy, out of calculation. Hayes wanted prey. He was about to meet a predator, and he'd forgotten. She was still armed, still thinking, and still breathing. How do you disappear when the whole world is hunting you? The moon hung low over the desert like a silent witness. Elena moved like a ghost between rock and shadow. Every breath controlled, every step deliberate. Somewhere behind her, the bounty. Hunter's radio still buzzed with her description. Female, armed kill confirmed. $150,000. Proof of death. Extra. But she wasn't going to die out here. Not like this. She'd been hunted before, in training, exercises, simulations, but never like this. Never by people who used to salute the same flag. In the last 6 hours, Elena had changed the rules. She became what they didn't expect, the aggressor. She used high ground, cover, silence, patience. She hit back, one ambush at a time. Bounty hunters went silent, their radios broadcasting the proof. Bodies found with clean shots, their positions stripped of ammo, their vehicles disabled. She scavenged from the fallen, learned from their patterns, used their arrogance. They were sloppy. She wasn't. And with every skirmish, the tide shifted. They thought she was fleeing. She was circling. Every kill bought her time, information, and weapons. And with it, something even more dangerous. Clarity? Hayes wasn't trying to kill her to stop a rogue soldier. He was covering a network. The weapons transfer wasn't isolated. It was systemic. And now he needed her dead. Not just to silence her, but to frame her, and he had a plan. She intercepted. It threw a stolen comm unit, listening from the shadows as Hayes briefed his men. Operation Clean Slate. Execute at 0400. Target. Refugee camp, civilians. Frame it on Vasquez. Plant her gear. Use her ballistics. Make it look clean. Her heart slammed. She knew that camp. She'd helped build its perimeter. Played soccer with the kids there. Held a crying mother's hand as she learned her son had died in transit. That camp wasn't a battlefield. It was a shelter. Now it was a trap. And if she didn't stop Hayes, every soul inside would burn. and her name would be signed beneath the flames. The time for hiding was over. The wind picked up. Footsteps echoed in the sand behind her, but this time it wasn't bounty hunters. It was something stranger. The low hum of a motorcycle approaching from the west. She raised her pistol. The rider stopped, slowly, carefully, hands in the air, vest marked, press, camera bag slung over his shoulder. He removed his helmet, mid-30s, unshaven, sharp-eyed. "Easy, Sergeant," he called. "I'm not here to collect the bounty." "Wrong answer," Elena replied, weapon steady. "You know my name, because I've been following Hayes for 8 months, and right now, you're the only person who can help me take him down." He stepped forward. Marcus Webb, independent war correspondent, former Army intel. She didn't lower her gun, but she listened. He pulled out a tablet, swiped through photos. Hayes, arms dealers, transfers, suspicious payments, dossiers, and then the refugee camp, the red X drawn across it. "I intercepted chatter an hour ago," Marcus said. "Hayes is planning a staged massacre to bury the evidence. You're the scapegoat." Elena's jaw clenched. "How do I know you're not working for him?" Marcus shrugged. "Because I'd be dead already. And because I used to believe in the same uniform you do." He stepped closer. "They're going to murder 300 civilians, Elena, unless we stop them." A name sounded strained from his lips. It made it real again. The war, the betrayal, the mission. She lowered her pistol, but not her guard. "What's your plan?" He pointed toward the northern ridge. "Back road, quiet. It'll get us close to the camp perimeter. If we get in, I can shut down their comms, hijack their signal, and broadcast the truth." She looked at the camp in the distance. Smoke already rising. Flashes of gunfire in the blackness. They'd started early. She made a decision. No more solo war. Not this time. She climbed on the bike behind Marcus, one arm wrapped around him, the other gripping her pistol. "What are we walking into?" she asked. Marcus didn't look back. "A show," he said grimly. "Hayes is broadcasting the massacre live, framing you in real time." They hit a ridge. Below, fire. Buildings burning, children screaming, contractors in tactical black moved. Like a death squad through the compound. It wasn't war. It was theater. And she was the villain in their script. "There," Marcus shouted. "Broadcast station. Southeast corner." A sniper's bullet tore through the bike's headlight. Elena ducked instinctively. Sniper. 2 o'clock. Marcus swerved hard. Gravel spraying. The bike slid behind a rusted shipping container. They dished it fast. Gunfire tore overhead. Elena scanned the ridge. Water tower, high angle, overwatch position. "I need to get closer," she muttered. "Too far for the sidearm." Marcus pointed toward the broadcast hub. "If I can get inside, I can access their drives." "You go," she snapped. "I'm taking the sniper, Elena." "No, nobody gets out alive while he's up there." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Alana, when this is over, what then?" She paused at the edge of the container, face lit by firelight. "Then we make sure it never happens again." She was gone before he could reply. Up the ladder, silent, fast. Each rung brought her closer to the man who thought he controlled this battlefield. The sniper never saw her coming. She ended him fast and claimed his rifle. Her scope now, her eyes, and what she saw nearly made her stomach turn. Not just death, staging, perfect angles, contrived lighting. Civilians heard it like props. It was a film. And she was the monster. Her tongue crackled. "Marcus, they're not broadcasting live. It's all pre-recorded. They're going to edit you in. Later, make it look like you led the attack." She scanned the camp, found Marcus through a shattered window. Typing frantically. "Marcus, how long do we have?" 30 minutes, then they kill the real witnesses, wipe everything. She spotted movement. 3 contractors heading toward her position. 2 minutes, maybe less. Can you stop the broadcast? I'm trying. No time, she steadied. The rifle, her first shot blew out a Cum's dish. Her second, a cameraman. Confusion erupted. Radios buzzed. Overwatch is down. Sniper in the tower. Then Hayes' voice, sharp, unbelieving. Vasquez is pinned down. Who the hell is firing? She keyed into their frequency. Hello, Colonel. Miss me? Silence. Then fury. Elena, you stubborn bitch. Another shot. Camera feed dark. Your little production's over, she said, flatly. Hayes' voice dropped to a growl. The world will see you for what you are. No, she whispered, lining up another shot. They'll see you. Below, Marcus shouted through the Tums. They've got me. Broadcast room's under siege. Elena spotted him, being dragged. Hayes appeared, smiling, weapon drawn. Elena! Marcus screamed. The servers. All the evidence is in. Gumbutt silenced him. Hayes called out into the smoke. Come out, Sergeant, or I kill him. And every innocent soul in this camp. Elena crouched low, heart pounding. This wasn't survival anymore. It was war. And she just stepped into the opening act. How do you win when surrender might save lives? Smoke coiled through the ruins like a living thing. Elena crouched behind a burned-out vehicle, weighing choices that had no good endings. Hayes stood outside the broadcast building, a pistol to Marcus's head, voice echoing through the chaos. You've got 30 seconds. Sergeant, surrender, or I make it slow. Elena stared through the rifle scope, breath steady despite the rage. Hayes thought he had her cornered, but he'd made one. Mistake. He brought a camera crew to a gunfight. Her eyes locked on a propane tank near the broadcast facility's side wall. One bullet, one shot. She pulled the trigger. The explosion shattered the night. Screams, confusion, fire everywhere. She was already sprinting through the smoke, rifle slung, pistol drawn. She reached Marcus just as he rolled away from the rubble, dazed but alive. The servers, he gasped, still intact in the center room. Fireproof vault. Gunfire erupted around them. Hayes contractors regrouping. She helped Marcus to his feet. Then we go get it. You're insane, he coughed. The whole place is on fire. Elena didn't flinch. If we leave it. Hayes wins. They pushed into the smoke-filled building, ducking under falling beams, skirting fire that licked at walls like hungry teeth. Inside the server room, heat clung to their skin like wet cloth. There, Marcus pointed. Those drives. Grab everything. Elena yanked hard drives from their mounts, stuffing them into a fireproof satchel. Each drive was proof of treason, of murder. Hayes wasn't just dirty. He was trying to rewrite history, and her face was the lie he planned to tell the world. They were almost clear of the building when the voice came again. Hayes, I know you're in here, Elena. He called out, nowhere left to run. His boots echoed through the hallway, flanked by the scuff of body armor, his last loyal team. You've made this harder than it had to be, he said, tone almost regretful. You could have walked away. Elena handed Marcus the satchel. Get it out, get it to someone who can use it. What about you? She gave a tight smile. I'm going to finish what he started. She waited until Marcus slipped into the smoke behind her. Then she pulled 2 smoke grenades from her belt, yanked the pins, and rolled them down opposite halls. The building vanished into swirling gray. She moved like a shadow, low and quiet, the blade in her hand an extension of her breath. The first contractor didn't see her. A single strike, efficient, silent. The radio at his hip crackled. Sector 2, report. She pressed the button herself. Sector 2's clear. The radio went dead. In the confusion, she melted deeper into the building's bones. Thermal goggles were useless now. The furnace room had flooded the structure with heat. She was invisible. A second contractor dropped as he rounded a blind corner. Her knife caught his leg, her pistol his chest. Then his voice, you're outnumbered, Vasquez. 6-1. What's your plan? She slid behind a desk, switching frequencies. Same as yours, Colonel. Make a scene. Win the narrative. People already think you're a terrorist, he said. Not anymore, she replied. Everything you've said tonight? We've been broadcasting it. Every lie, every order, every threat. Silence, then rage. You think anyone's going to believe you? Ask your men. Ask the ones who already stopped shooting. She heard it. Doubt, hesitation, loyalty cracking. Under the weight of truth, she reached the top floor and saw him, Hayes, flanked by 2 bodyguards. Standing by a terminal, Marcus transmitter glowing behind him. Elena stepped into the doorway. Colonel Hayes, it's time we had a conversation. He spun, pistol raised. She shot the light above him. Darkness swallowed the room. Let's talk about treason, she said. Let's talk about blood money. You don't know anything. I know enough. She moved around the room's edge, tracking his voice. You think this ends with me? Hayes snapped. There are others. There's a whole network. I know, she whispered from the shadows. And tonight, it starts unraveling. She could hear him repositioning, moving for the window, an escape route. She took aim. Her shot shattered his wrist. He screamed, fell to one knee. You're insane, he gasped. She stepped into the firelight. Weapons steady. Then call me Justice. He raised his other hand. Surrender. Or maybe another trick. She didn't give him time. One more shot. His leg, he crumpled, bleeding, broken. For the refugees, she said coldly, and for every soldier you turned against me. He looked up, eyes wild. Elena, please. We can make a deal. She knelt beside him, pressed the muzzle against his temple. No deals, he whimpered. Then, the sound of boots, dozens, shouts from outside. Her earpiece buzzed. Vasquez, this is Captain Rodriguez. We've got your position. Your broadcast went wide. We're moving in. Elena smiled grimly. Welcome to the show. A moment later, the door burst open. Rodriguez, Chun, her old squad. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Rodriguez lowered his weapon. Elena, we're sorry. We believed him. She nodded once. No anger, just exhaustion. How many of his people are still active? Most are surrendering, some are running. Then we move, fast. She stood, motioned to the satchel. We've got enough evidence to bring down half the command chain. Hayes groaned on the floor. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. What about him? Keep him alive. He's going to testify, in chains. As they moved out, Marcus limped into the room, tablet in hand. Upload complete, he said. The world's already watching. Outside, military Humvees arrived. Real soldiers. Real uniforms. Elena stood in the firelight. Face streaked with soot and blood. Eyes locked on the man who tried to make her vanish. He looked up at her like a man who'd just seen the edge of hell and knew he'd been dragged back from it. Just to be judged. You think this changes anything? Hayes whispered. She leaned down, close enough for only him to hear. It already has. What do you do when the truth is too big for one person to carry alone? The desert night burned behind them. Flames danced on shattered glass. The refugee camp, a smoldering wound, was finally quiet. Hayes, bloodied and bound, muttered threats under his breath, but nobody was listening anymore. They had what they needed. Rodriguez turned to Elena as medics worked on Marcus nearby. We've confirmed 3 other facilities tied to Hayes. Evidence is being destroyed as we speak. Major. Chun's voice crackled through the coms. We're planning simultaneous raids, but we need someone who knows his operation. Knows how he thinks. Elena didn't hesitate. The old depot, 15 clicks north. Hayes claimed it was decommissioned, but I saw unmarked supply runs heading there. Rodriguez frowned. You sure? I'm sure. That's where the core of this operation lives. Hayes groaned on the ground. voice barely audible. "You'll never make it in time. They'll burn it all." Elena didn't flinch. "Then we don't waste a second." They loaded up into military Humvees. Engines roared across the desert. Elena rode in the lead, fresh magazines in her lap, her mind already dissecting the terrain, the angles, the likely resistance. Rodriguez leaned over. "You sure you're up for this?" She stared ahead. "I've been training for this my whole life. I just didn't know it." Comms lit up with updates from the other raids. Target 1 secured. Computer servers intact. Target 2. Suspects in custody, including broadcast ops lead. Each confirmation chipped away at Hayes' empire. Each voice on the comms sounded a little less disillusioned and a little more determined. But the depot, that was the fortress, and they all knew it, tucked into a hillside, ringed with concrete and steel. It had been built to outlast bombs, with multiple choke points and overlapping fields of fire, a kill zone. Hayes had designed it himself. But that also meant Elena knew how he thought. As they neared, she pulled Rodriguez aside, pointing to a service tunnel behind the ridge. "He once told me that was the emergency evac route. I'll bet anything they've been using it to smuggle weapons." Rodriguez looked skeptical. "You think it's still accessible?" "There's one way to find out, under cover of darkness." Elena led the team to the false rock face. Behind it, the tunnel, narrow, silent, waiting. Just like she remembered, they entered, NVGs glowing faintly in the black. The air was cold and dry, but Elena could feel heat ahead, the quiet tension of armed men ready to kill. "Movement," whispered Williams. He was behind her now, the same soldier who'd once been ordered to shoot her, now covering her six without hesitation. 2. Guards ahead, automatic rifles, close quarters. Elena raised a hand, froze, observed. "Ready?" Rodriguez nodded. Then she moved, fast, precise. The guards never stood a chance. They pushed into the heart of the facility and saw it all, a massive underground vault, weapons caches stacked floor to ceiling, computer servers, surveillance terminals, ammunition stockpiles, contracts, shipment records, and demolition charges already being wired to detonate. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're planning to blow it." Rodriguez's reply came sharp and steady. "Teams are in position. On your signal, we hit all fronts." Elena scanned the layout. Hayes' words echoed from long ago. The high ground wins battles. She spotted a catwalk overlooking the entire depot. "I'm going up. I can cover you from there." "It's suicide," Williams muttered. "That walkway is totally exposed. That's why they won't expect me there." She didn't wait for approval. She ran, a blur of motion, her rifle firing before her boots hit metal. 2 guards down. She reached the catwalk and dropped into prone, eyes scanning. Breath still below, chaos. 12 armed men scrambled. The demo team moved to trigger the charges. And at the heart of it all, a face she recognized from Hayes' confession, General Morrison. The man Hayes claimed signed off on the entire operation. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was directing the destruction. Elena's first shot took out the demo team leader. Her second, the detonator switch. Screams erupted. Rodriguez's team surged in from every entrance, tactical and precise. And Morrison? He stood tall, watching her from the command station with a grim smirk. "Elena Vasquez," he boomed, voice echoing through the concrete vault. "I suppose this was inevitable." She didn't answer. He stepped forward, not hiding, not flinching. "You think this is about greed?" He shouted. This was survival. The world is changing. America has enemies everywhere. We needed leverage. You sold weapons to terrorists. Elena called back, scope steady. "You murdered civilians. To protect the country," Morrison said coldly. "To protect the idea of it." There was no remorse in his eyes, only the conviction of a man who believed his own rod. Elena kept him in her sights. Who else? Morrison laughed. Not like a villain, like a general at a briefing. "You naive little girl. There are dozens of us. We have senators, contractors, admirals. Hayes was a pawn. You're still thinking too small. He reached for something behind the console. She saw the glint. Dead man switch, connected to secondary demolition charges. You want justice? He sneered. Then come take it. Elena didn't hesitate. Her shot hit him center mass. The switch dropped harmlessly from his twitching hand. Rodriguez's team stormed the room seconds later. It was over, the last of it. For now, Elena climbed. Down from the catwalk, boots echoing on steel. She found Rodriguez beside Morrison's body. Is it done? He asked. She didn't answer right away because she knew better. This part is. Chun's voice crackled through the comms again. Elena, we've secured all targets, but we're getting reports. More suspicious activity at other bases. They're burning evidence everywhere. Elena's shoulders sagged slightly. Not from fatigue, from realization. This conspiracy wasn't isolated. It was a network, a disease, and she had just uncovered the first layer. Williams looked shaken. What do we do now? Elena picked up Morrison's terminal, scrolling through logs, call signs, internal codes. She looked at the names. So many, too many. Then she looked at the team around her. Soldiers who had been lied to, hunted, used, now standing by her side. We do what soldiers are supposed to do, she said. We protect. We investigate. We root this out. Rodriguez stepped forward. Where do we start? Elena lifted the drive that had Morrison's entire operation logged inside it. We start here. And this time, she wasn't going to stop. Can one bullet change the future? If the whole system is built to forget. 6 months later, Elena stood in a briefing room unlike any battlefield she had known. No dust, no blood, no fire, just silence and judgment. The Pentagon chamber was filled with brass and politics, senators, generals, defense contractors in polished shoes and pressed uniforms. She wasn't wearing hers. Elena Vasquez stood in front of them in a plain black suit, a service ribbon pinned to her chest. No medals, no glamour, just truth. She finished her testimony without raising her voice, a simple recounting of facts. Hayes, Morrison, the depot, the recordings, the names, the cover-ups, the deaths, the betrayal. She didn't cry, didn't waver, but her voice, flat and firm, hit harder than any bullet she'd ever fired. And when it was over, no one moved. Some faces were red with shame, others pale with fear. A few, just a few, held something else. Resolve, because deep down they knew the military would never be the same, and it started with one sniper who refused to pull the trigger. Until she knew the truth, she stepped out of the hearing room and into the hallway, where Marcus was waiting, dressed cleaner than she'd ever seen him, still limping, still filming. You did it, he said quietly. Elena shook her head. No. We started it, because while the media was focused on the headlines to 47 military arrests, 12 contractors indicted, 6 members of Congress under investigation, Elena's eyes were on what came next. What came after the chaos, after the story stopped trending. That was always the real battle. What people did after the applause, a month later. She stood in front of a new squad. No ceremony, no cameras, just a plain warehouse turned operations hub. 1 table, 4 chairs, 1 worn American flag on the wall. Rodriguez, Williams, Chun. A few others who'd turned against corruption instead of turning against her. And her, Elena Vasquez, now head of a new joint task force, unofficial name. The Mirror Unit, because their job wasn't to fight wars. It was to look at their own side and hold a mirror to it, expose fraud, stop illegal ops, investigate from inside. She opened the first briefing without rank or titles, just a mission file dropped onto the table. A name, a transfer record, a weapons shipment that didn't add up. Same signs, she said. Different players. Rodriguez looked up. You think this is connected to Hayes? I think Hayes was a symptom, Elena replied. The disease runs deeper. There were nods, no cheers, no fist pumps. This wasn't the kind of work that earned medals. It earned enemies. But this time, they weren't alone. They were a unit, a new kind of weapon, one rooted in truth, not orders. And this time, no one was getting left behind. But the war didn't disappear. It simply changed masks. A month into the task force's work, Elena watched as new cases piled up. Civilian deaths rewritten as accidents. Missing inventory marked as clerical error. Private contractors with unchecked authority. Same playbook, new names. She'd spend late nights staring at maps, connection charts, intelligence briefs. Sometimes she wondered if it would ever end. Sometimes. She doubted herself. One night, as the rain tapped against her window, she pulled out the old radio, the one from the broadcast room, still scorched, still silent. A reminder. Of fire, of betrayal, of clarity. She remembered Hayes' final words. Just before the medics took him away. You think this changes anything? There are others. He was right. There were others. But that's exactly why she couldn't stop. That's why she couldn't afford to forget. Because the system counted on silence. But silence had nearly cost 300 lives, and Elena had learned something. In the ruins of that camp, truth doesn't need permission to exist. Only someone brave enough to speak it. Weeks later, the first breakthrough came. An intercepted comms package out of Eastern Europe. Mentions of American arms showing up in unstable zones, tied to a ghost contractor group with Pentagon clearance. Marcus dug deeper. Chun ran financial patterns. Elena tracked the movement maps, and there it was again. The pattern, small, precise, surgical, but all too familiar. Another operation, another attempt to make it look clean. And this time, Elena knew the playbook better than they did. She stood before her team. This ends now. She didn't shout it. Didn't need to. She just loaded her weapon, clipped in a fresh mag, and they followed. Because they knew this wasn't about vengeance. This was about duty. The mission was fast, no explosions. No grand standoffs, just black sites, servers, confiscated evidence. A few agents too stunned to resist when caught red-handed. The task force recorded everything. And as Elena watched another chain of command fall, she didn't feel triumph. Just clarity. One operation at a time, one lie dismantled at a time. They were changing the future, not with bullets, but with truth, with resistance, with integrity. The kind that no one would ever give her a parade for, but that was okay, because that's not why she fought. 6 months later, Elena returned to the refugee camp, now rebuilt, fences repaired. Children. Playing soccer again, a small girl ran up to her, handed her a flower. Elena smiled. Barely. She still didn't sleep through the night. Still heard the voices sometimes. But standing here, she knew something had shifted. Because these people, they were alive. And she was free. Not because the system forgave her, but because she didn't let it define her. And as she looked up at the flag fluttering above the camp, she didn't feel pride. Not exactly. She felt responsibility because flags don't make a nation. People do. People like Rodriguez, who chose truth over comfort, like Chun, who used intelligence to uncover rot, like Marcus, who risked his life not for a story, but for justice, and like Elena Vasquez, the sniper they tried to bury, the soldier they branded rogue, the woman who turned the tide, not with glory, but with grit, with conscience, with clarity forged in betrayal. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. What happens when the people trained to protect you become the ones who disappear into the shadows? It began again, with a whisper, a name, a unit number that didn't exist in any official ledger, and a weapons shipment routed through a country that hadn't seen a U.S. military presence in over a decade. Elena leaned over the table, the dim light casting long shadows across her face. Operation Winter Halo, she said aloud. No one else spoke, because none of them had heard of it. And yet, The signs were all too familiar. Disguised transactions, contractor aliases, civilians. Listed as collateral training variables. Chun tapped through her encrypted tablet, her brow furrowing. They're building something, or hiding something. Could be black site activity. Could be another frame job. It's too early to tell, Rodriguez spoke next. One of the contractors flagged in the files? Former Morrison asset. His bank accounts have been frozen since Hayes went down. But somehow, he's still funding ops. Elena stood slowly. They were learning. The deeper they went, the more they understood how the network had survived. It didn't rely on brute force anymore. It relied on disappearance, on misdirection, control of information, the narrative, and in a world ruled by perception. The greatest weapon wasn't firepower, it was fiction, and they were about to intercept another script before it was written in blood. The coordinates led them to a warehouse on the edge of a NATO-friendly zone, dressed to look like an abandoned fuel depot, but Elena knew the difference between decay and camouflage. This wasn't a ruin, it was a mask. They breached the perimeter in silence. Williams disabled the alarms with a custom device Chun had rigged herself. Rodriguez's team swept left, circling toward the main entry. Elena took point. They weren't hunting criminals tonight. They were hunting ghosts. Inside, the air was still. Too still. A breath held too long. Elena gave the signal. 3, 2, 1. They moved. Fast. Precise. What they found stopped them cold. Not weapons, not soldiers, computers, rows of servers. Live, streaming surveillance footage from refugee camps. Civilian convoys, even private security firms operating under NATO flags. All of it. Monitored in real time. What the hell is this? Williams whispered. Chun answered quietly, horrified. They're running predictive simulations. Using real civilian data, behavior modeling, tracking movement, response times, emotional responses under stress. Rodriguez stepped forward, staring at one of the screens. On it, a simulation titled False Flag Test, Tier 3. And in the corner, a familiar face, Elena Vasquez. Only it wasn't her. Not exactly. A deep fake, her face, her uniform, leading a tactical assault. On a humanitarian convoy, no blood, just digital theater. But with enough editing, it would be real enough for the news, for command, for a country desperate to believe in easy villains. They're planning another setup, Rodriguez muttered. No, Elena corrected. They're perfecting one. Chun was already downloading the data, her fingers moving fast. This isn't just about me anymore. Elena said, they've built a machine, a system designed to turn anyone into a traitor. Rodriguez's voice was low. Anyone who asks the wrong questions. The team stood in the glow of the monitors, each screen flickering with a warped version of reality. Somewhere beyond those walls, someone was pulling the strings. But tonight, the puppet show had been interrupted. Elena keyed her come. Chun, do we have enough? Every file, every route, every player. Elena looked once more at the screen showing her own face, digitally resurrected to fit a new lie. Then she pulled her sidearm and shot the monitor through the center. Burn it. They left the way. They came silent, fast, unseen. The servers would be gone in 20 minutes, but the war? It was just evolving. The news never reported on the warehouse. There were no press conferences, no medals, just more nights, more patterns, more cold trails that led to unexpected places, private think tanks, defense lobbying groups, foreign consultants with hidden contracts. This wasn't corruption. It was infrastructure. And Elena finally understood what Morrison meant in his final moments. Even if you kill me, it won't matter. We're everywhere. He was right. They were, but so was she. Every op made them smarter. Every document cross-referenced, every witness protected, every leak encrypted and planted where it mattered. They weren't trying to bring down the entire system. They were trying to make it honest again, one layer at a time. On the 1-year anniversary of the refugee camp attack, the one that never happened, Elena stood in a small memorial square where the first survivors had gathered. There were no speeches, just silence, a few lanterns, and a worn photo someone had nailed to the fence. It showed a child, one Elena remembered. He had handed her a flower once. Now he waved from the edge of the frame, grinning, still alive, still safe, because the lie hadn't worked, because she didn't run, and because someone was finally watching the watchers. Marcus stood beside her, filming from a respectful distance. He didn't ask her to speak. He just nodded once in quiet solidarity. "You ever think about leaving all this behind?" he asked. After a while, Elena didn't look away from the fence. All the time. "But you don't?" "No." He paused. "Why?" Her voice was soft, because she wasn't the girl who once hesitated behind a scope anymore. Because she'd seen what silence cost. Because once you've been betrayed by the people who trained you and survived, you don't fight for them anymore. You fight for the people they forgot, for the ones who can't fight back. She said. Marcus didn't speak. He didn't need to. Some things didn't need to be recorded, just remembered. That night, back at the task force's headquarters, a new file waited on her desk. No title, just a redacted dossier, names, places, and one word highlighted in black. Mirror. She flipped it open. At the bottom, coordinates. Not from intelligence, from an anonymous source. A warning? A trap? Or something worse? She picked up her weapon and locked eyes with her reflection in the glass. Whatever it was. She was ready because she was no longer just a sniper, no longer just a survivor. She was the reckoning that moved in silence. And this time, she wasn't. Walking into another ambush, she was dragging the shadows into the light. How do you fight an enemy when they live in your blind spot? The coordinates led to a forest outpost in the Appalachian foothills. Fog coiled around the trees like a living memory. Old-growth pines stretched into darkness. No markers, no flags, just silence and the slow, growing sense that something was watching. Elena crouched by the overlook ridge, night vision goggles dull green against her face. The facility below looked like a wildlife research lab, run down, overgrown, quiet, but it wasn't. Thermal scans told the truth. 12 signatures inside. All armed, Rodriguez's voice crackled softly in her earpiece. Overwatch confirms your position. You're sure this is the place? I'm sure, Elena whispered. This is where Mirror was born. Because inside those walls, not just intelligence, not just weapons, but a control room. The system that had processed every false op, every frame job, every erasure of inconvenient soldiers like her. Mirror wasn't just the name of their unit anymore. It was the enemy's blueprint, and now, Elena was about to walk straight into its reflection. They moved at 0200 hours. No lights, no vehicles. Just boots and breath and silent rifles. The outer fence was rusted, weak, a trap. Elena spotted the motion detectors before Rodriguez stepped into the beam. Hold. She disarmed the sensor with a knife and 3 feet of copper wire. They breached the building through a rear maintenance hatch. The interior was colder than it should have been. Server hums echoing between metal corridors. Old military. Tech retrofitted for something darker. Chun broke into the mainframe within minutes. Her whisper was low, tense. Elena. They weren't just running ops. Rodriguez looked over her shoulder. What is this? Chun scrolled faster. Dozens of names, call signs, mission logs, deleted operations, and one recurring folder label. Shepard? Project Shepard? Elena asked, scanning the data. Chun nodded grimly. It's the override protocol. If a soldier starts asking too many questions, Shepard activates. A full profile is built. Psychological, financial, operational. Then they fabricate a scenario to make that soldier disappear. Rodriguez's mouth went dry. Frame them? or kill them outright. Elena felt her hands curl into fists. Dozens of profiles, officers, analysts, pilots, good soldiers, all listed KIA under false missions, or branded as rogue. Some of them had families. One of them, Elena recognized. Corporal Janice Mallory. She remembered her smile, her steady trigger hand, her quiet laugh in the mess hall. She'd been told Mallory died in a training accident, but here, plain as a bullet casing, was the truth. Shepard had erased her. Jesus. Rodriguez whispered. Elena didn't blink. Copy everything. Send it to Chun's secure node. Then burn the place. Suddenly, a flicker on thermal. 4 heat signatures approaching. Fast, not guards, operators, reinforcements. Someone had triggered. A failsafe. Elena, Williams called over comms. You've got company inbound. 5 minutes. Rodriguez stepped forward, weapon raised. We hold the perimeter? Elena shook her head. We fight like we've already been erased. They set traps at every entry point. Flashbangs, claymores, tripwires improvised from det cord and door hinges. The first wave hit hard. Black-clad men, no insignia, no hesitation. Elena moved through smoke like she was born in it. Her shots were quick, clean, center mass. One dropped, then another. She caught a glimpse of Chun, dragging the hard drives to a secure case while Williams covered her flank. Rodriguez slammed an attacker into the server rack with brutal efficiency, but they kept coming. More boots, more fire. Then, the second signal inside the building. Someone had been here the whole time. Rodriguez. East Hall, movement. He turned too late. The attacker came out of the dark. Silent, fast, surgical. Elena's shot saved him by inches. The man dropped, blood blooming from his shoulder, but not before he dropped something onto the floor. A transmitter, a black cube, blinking red. What the hell is that? Chun asked, breathless. Elena's stomach sank. It's a relay. They're not just tracking us. They're uploading something. Rodriguez grabbed the cube. Can we shut it down? No. Chun said, but we can't redirect it. She flipped open her tablet and started typing furiously. If we can reroute their upload path, we could send it straight to the Department of Justice node. Real-time exposure. Elena watched the servers glow red with system strain. Everything, every file, every video, every lie being funneled up the chain. And then, Chun smiled. It's done. Outside, the remaining hostiles retreated, not because they lost, but because they knew what had just happened. Their secrets were no longer safe. Their silence had been broken. Rodriguez looked at Elena. Blood on his sleeve, dirt on his face. What? Now? She didn't answer right away, because she was listening to the sudden buzz of phones. The news, the networks, the story breaking in real time. Now? She said softly, now we see who runs toward the light and who crawls deeper into the dark. The fallout was immediate. 37 more names surfaced within 48 hours. High level, deep clearance, some disappeared. Some were arrested mid-flight. Some issued statements laced with half-truths and vague promises of reform. But the public didn't forget, because they'd heard the broadcast, seen the footage, heard Morrison's confession, Hayes' orders, the digital fingerprints of Shepard. It was too late to clean it up, too late to control the story. And in the center of it all stood Elena Vasquez, not on a stage, not behind a desk, but on the front lines of something no one had a name for yet. Justice that didn't wear medals, only scars and clarity. Weeks later, she sat alone on the edge of a river. No mission, no orders, just the hum of water. And the sky growing dark. Rodriguez found her there, sat beside her without a word. They watched a hawk circle high above the trees. How much longer you think this goes? He asked quietly. Elena didn't look up. As long as they keep hiding, he nodded slowly. What if they stop chasing us? Then we dig deeper, he smiled. You ever stop? Elena turned to him, eyes steady. voice like steel wrapped in silence. When I'm gone, and even then, only if someone else is watching. What remains? When the enemy is unmasked, but the system stays silent. The briefing room was quiet. Too quiet. No humming projectors. No barked orders, no paper shuffling, just Elena Vasquez, standing before a screen that displayed nothing but names. Names the world wasn't supposed to know. Names redacted from history, from records, from memory, but not from truth. Rodriguez leaned against the far wall, arms crossed. Chum sat beside Marcus, who held his camera idle in his lap for once. No. One moved. Elena didn't pace, didn't speak yet, because what she was about to ask wasn't an order, it was a choice. They're still out there, she said finally. The Shepherd remnants. New aliases, new countries, same mission. We've cut off their legs, but they've still got teeth. Rodriguez looked at the screen. A senator, a former general, a private security tycoon. All smiling, public faces, all hiding something. They'll adapt, Chun said. They already have, Marcus added. And we're not on the offensive anymore. Not really. We're managing. Fallout. Elena turned to the screen, stared at the woman in the bottom corner. A colonel. Young, polished, pristine. No evidence yet. But her eyes told a story, calculated, cold, measured. Just like Hayes once was. Elena turned back to her team. We can go public, again, but this time they'll fight back differently. Smarter, through legislation, media control, lawsuits they won't use bullets, they'll use bureaucracy. Marcus nodded. Which means our best weapon is proof. Rodriguez smiled faintly. And steel nerves. Silence again. Then Elena said the thing none of them wanted to voice. If we push further, they'll come for us again. Quietly this time. Not with hit squads, with character assassinations. Frozen accounts, discredited sources, blackmail. She looked each of them in the eye. I need to know you're still in. One by one, they nodded, because they'd already been marked for erasure once, and survived, because doing the right thing isn't about safety, it's about choosing to act. When silence is easier, their first new lead came through a civilian whistleblower, a tech contractor with access to an old private military database. Encrypted transmissions, untraceable drone strikes, civilian deaths logged as unverified crossfire, and the signature code, SHD314. Shepherd, buried again, but not deeply enough. Elena scanned the manifest. Afghanistan, Somalia, southern Mexico, all places where Shepherd operations had once flourished, now reactivated under new corporate names. Old ghosts, new uniforms, she sighed. The war wasn't over. It had just taken a more polished face. She looked up at Marcus. You ready to chase shadows again? He lifted his camera. I don't chase shadows, Elena. I follow you. She gave a dry smile. Then let's move. Months passed, not in peace, but in purpose. They infiltrated databases, stole what was meant to be hidden, protected witnesses no one else would believe. And every time the enemy adapted, they adapted faster. Chun developed forensic AI to cross-check falsified mission data. Rodriguez built a network of allies, quiet soldiers, intel agents, honest command staff, who fed them intel under the radar. And Elena? She watched and waited because she'd learned something no training had ever taught her. Truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to endure. Then, one night, the call came. A signal burst from a known dead zone. Encrypted message. Only one line. They're preparing another. Vasquez up, this time. They're using children. Elena's hands clenched around the receiver. She didn't wait for debate. Didn't need authorization. The mission was clear. Stop the next lie before it's written. Because she knew the blueprint by heart now. They'd find a target. Someone righteous. Someone inconvenient. Create a narrative. Build the footage. Stage the evidence. And bury the truth. Along with anyone who dared to speak it. She strapped on her gear in silence. The others were already doing the same. No words needed. They reached the staging site at dawn, an abandoned UN camp in a no-fly corridor. Too quiet, too perfect. They breached the perimeter, and there, in the center, stood the camera rigs, the uniform mock-ups, the pre-filled casualty reports, and the actors, terrified locals, paid to play dead. A child's shoe lay next to a fake blood packet, and on the table, a folder. Vasquez, her name, her face, her service record, rewritten, repackaged, ready to frame again. Marcus stared at it, stunned. Why her again? Rodriguez muttered. Because I'm the warning, Elena said. If they erase me, it tells everyone else to stay quiet. But this time, she wasn't alone. The team uploaded the full site data, destroyed the equipment, freed the actors, recorded their testimony, and within hours, the operation was blown wide open. Again, one more fire put out. One more lie choked by truth. The sun was setting when they drove back. No celebration. Just the sound of tires on broken road. Chun leaned her head against the window. You think we'll ever stop them for good? Elena watched the light fade across the horizon. No, she said. But that's not the point. Rodriguez looked over. Then what is the point? Elena stared ahead, eyes locked, voice low. That we don't become them. Because that's how it always begins. Not with money, not with power, but with excuses. With the first time you look the other way, and the second time, you don't even notice. She refused to forget who she was, what they tried to make her do, who they tried to make her become, and she knew. The most dangerous battlefield was never the desert. It was the story they told about it. 6 months later, Elena stood, alone at the edge of Arlington, a modest gravestone in front of her. No body beneath, just the name Corporal Janice Mallory. She laid a coin on the headstone, pressed her fingers to the cold granite. I remember, she whispered, and then she walked away, not to move on, but to keep going, because someone had to, because truth, like honor, wasn't loud. It was just steady, and because some wars aren't meant to end, they're meant to be fought well, by those who remember what silence costs and what dignity looks like. When no one is watching, sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts, and sometimes the most dangerous soldier is the one they tried to forget. Elena Vasquez was never a rogue. She was the reckoning they never saw coming.